Hey everyone, Sammy Shiny Victini here, tired as heck once again, but you know what, let's just get started. And here today we have Stone the Oshawott by my friend Guesty the Oshawott on DeviantArt. Now looking at the design, I will have to say that I do think that Stone is very pretty. And no, I'm not just saying that just because Guesty is my friend, I do think that Stone is rather good looking. I never really see Oshawott OCs with this type of color palette, and it is definitely something new to bring onto the table. I don't really have a problem with all the colors, but from what it could give for constructive criticism is to once again look up references on how to properly draw an Oshawott's body. I'd also recommend, as I've seen your sketching style, to, instead of using the line tool to sketch, I suggest using the pencil tool in order to sketch out your drawings. I do know you use MS Paint, and you have told me in the past that you only use it because you want to prove it's good, and yes, I have seen examples of MS Paint being used wonderfully, but I do think that if you move on to a program such as Fire Alpaca, your art can come out much better at the skill level you are now. Looking at the head, it is very clear that you do use the circle tool for the head, and I recommend that you start getting off that habit. As I look at other pictures, as I see that you're moving on, starting to add more hair and such, not it just having being a plain circle head. But I do recommend that you start to move more out of that phase and start to give the head more dimension. Try looking at one of my pictures that I drew of Oshawott, such as my character Yui. She, as you can see, is that her head does look much more realistic than what you see from normal Oshawotts, and that's mainly does come from my own art style. Now, art styles can be improved and such, but getting off of that, for the rest of the body, I do say work on the proportions quite a bit. The arms are a bit too long, and Oshawotts, unlike actual otters, do not walk on all fours and instead walk on only two legs. I recommend making the arms shorter and the legs longer, but not too long. The tail, I believe, is just fine, and I believe the rest of the body is quite nice. Moving on to the bio of the character. I wanted to remake Stone again, so I thought she's just a bundle of joy. Her first original pelt color was one of pure solid gray, which feels disgusting to look at now. I wasn't pleased by her current design because I thought it would have more flavor. It was still dull to look at for me, so this is her second remake. Her first and original is in my stash. I think this may not be her last remake, but I'm currently pleased with how she looks now compared to the last two. Stone is a female Oshawott. She was named after her gray pelt, but it wasn't her mother who named her, for she was taken away after being born by an organization at night. As she grew, she had grown an ability to find gems in the ground. The organization that took care of her decided to use this as an advantage for profit and their own greed. She had worn a tracking/shock collar so they can follow her, and had two Pokemon called the Type Null go along at a young age. If she decides to do something else, she'd be shocked. She would wander off more often as she had gotten, meaning more shocks from the collar. They were not sure why she didn't seem bothered by them anymore. Upon further quote-unquote research, she gained a role of water rock typing. However, she isn't immune to electric types. She is actually still a pure water type. It is more of her pelt. Since it wasn't exactly groomed often and harsh conditions, the pelt feels like a solid massive rock and blocks off most of the electricity from her unless touched just right. It will feel as rough as rock. She often feels just a small sting from these electricity. One night, she forced the collar off of her with her skull chop and fled into the woods due to lack of food as punishment for not finding a large diamond. No one knows exactly which organization it was who kept her away from the world, but she can only remember one thing about them. They had skulls on their clothes. She does not know the name of them, but she kept herself on the run, hoping to never be found. She rarely uses her ability to find stones unless it were to help the poor get some money, but she wouldn't stay around very long to make sure they lived a healthy life. She eventually made herself swim across an ocean to another island to live at. She didn't stop for hardly anything other than hunting for fish with her skull chop. She found an island after 1 week of swimming and slid into a cave along the side when she saw humans with strange planks to ride the waves not far from where she was and lived in the nearby cave ever since, using her pelt to help hide herself from anyone who entered the cave. The only Pokemons... That is my mother in the background. The only Pokemons she interacted with were Zubats and Psyducks, and hunted outside this cave for any small fish Pokemon in the ocean. Though she had to swim quite a bit away from her home, she rarely watches the humans' ride of the Mantines, or Mantines, however you want to pronounce it, which she thought hurts them, but discovered it didn't, so she often watched and wondered where she truly belongs. Now, that is the character's bio, and as I said for the last character we had on our first OC review, I believe it would be much more proper if you had gotten a blank OC bio template, copy and pasted it, and then fill it out from there. It would make everything a lot more organized, such as the name, age, gender, height, weight, and such, along with a fully written out personality, likes, dislikes, and then you put the backstory where it is meant to be put. That would make everything a lot more organized and much easier to read. I would also recommend taking the word before you submit everything, taking the words you have written down and putting them into Google Translate. Then have the whole thing. Then have it read the whole paragraph back to you, and then make edits along the way of anything that you hear is off, because there were several grammar issues that did make everything sound off, and just plain made some of the sentences rather choppy. So that's all I have for this OC, and if you'd like, just tell me in the comments and I will give my own design of this character and we'll see how it goes. This has been Sammy Shiny Victini signing out. Bye-bye.